A Mortal's Journey to Immortality Episode 164. Han, at the nascent soul stage, actually left these treasures for the Han family descendants. What would be the reaction of the Han family descendants who received these treasures? Continuing from last time, Han felt he had let the Han family down, telling them there was no need to pay it much mind. Han Tianxiao said respectfully and deferentially, "What words are those, martial uncle ancestor? It is we, your descendants, who are unfilial, unaware that martial uncle ancestor was still alive in this world. Otherwise, we would surely have sent people to fulfill our filial duties before you." Han Li waved a hand and said indifferently, "Fulfilling filial duties? That won't be necessary. I only came to take a look and will be leaving. I won't stay long. I am also a person seeking immortality and pursuing the Tao. It's better to get less involved with these mundane ties of the mortal world." Han Tianxiao said in surprise, "Martial uncle ancestor, are you, venerable elder, leaving already? This is a bit too hasty. Why not follow Tianxiao to the ancestral hall and see the other Han family descendants before you leave? It wouldn't be too late." Han Li sighed and said with a hint of regret, "No need. I already used my divine sense to scan the people within the Han family's ancestral hall. Unfortunately, although there are many Han clan members, none of them possess spiritual roots. There is no immortal destiny to be had with me. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind taking 1 or 2 clan disciples with me to cultivate." A trace of disappointment flashed across Han Tianxiao's face. He gave a bitter smile. "It seems we, your descendants, are blessed with little fortune, unable to seek immortal destiny with martial uncle ancestor." Han Li shook his head and said calmly, "Possessing a spiritual root is originally a 1 in 10,000 occurrence. It is normal for hundreds of Han clan members to lack this aptitude. Moreover, according to my original intention, it's better for the Han and Li family descendants not to step into the cultivation world. After all, the current cultivation world is not peaceful. Incidents of entire clans and sects being annihilated happen from time to time. If it were to implicate the entire Han family, it would be very bad indeed." Han Tianxiao, hearing this, honestly replied, "Your grandnephew will obey all of 4th martial uncle ancestor's commands." Han Li's gaze shifted, and he suddenly stared at the bearded burly man, asking, "Which generation descendant of Li Feiyu are you? What is your name?" Hearing this, the burly man hastily bowed and replied, "This junior, Li Feng, is the 11th generation descendant of Ancestor Feiyu." "Greetings, martial uncle ancestor Han." "Li Feiyu and I addressed each other as brothers back then," Han Li said. "It is fitting for you to call me martial uncle ancestor. Just now, I saw you provide much protection to Tianxiao. It seems the Li family has indeed taken good care of the Han family over the years. As a martial uncle ancestor of the Han family, I naturally cannot treat the Li family unfairly. Here are some medicinal pills. They are greatly helpful to martial artists. They can save your Li family descendants more than half the effort of arduous internal energy cultivation. Please accept them for now." Han Li took out 7 or 8 small bottles from his storage pouch and handed them to Li Feng. Li Feng was overjoyed upon hearing this. He hastily took the small bottles, expressing gratitude. Martial artists in the pugilistic world spend many years cultivating internal energy. With these medicinal pills, the Li family would henceforth produce experts in droves. Seeing this, Han Tianxiao, while happy for his friend, couldn't help but look at Han Li with a hint of anticipation. Han Li saw this and smiled faintly. He unhurriedly took out a spirit beast pouch, and with a shake, over 1,000 3-colored gold-devouring beetles surged out. Amidst a buzzing sound, they formed a 3-colored insect cloud, about a zhang in size, dazzlingly bright, like 10,000 points of starlight manifesting in broad daylight. Witnessing the scene, Han Tianxiao and Li Feng were dumbfounded, secretly marveling. Han Li made these 1,000-plus gold-devouring beetles transform into a 3-colored treasured sword. He reached out with a gesture, and the treasured sword emitted a clear ringing sound, automatically falling into his hand. Han Li held the sword in one hand, and with the other, lightly stroked the sword's blade. The expression on his face flickered uncertainly. After a moment, he sighed and sprayed out a ball of azure qi. A clear light flashed, and a verdant, ancient and unadorned scabbard appeared on the surface of the sword blade. Hanli held the sword and its scabbard horizontally in front of him, then took out a crystal-clear jade and warned, "This sword was refined by me from spiritual insects. It can automatically kill people and destroy enemies. I will leave it here in this ancestral hall. If one day the Han family truly faces a calamity of clan annihilation, the clan members can hide inside the ancestral hall. With this sword, they can temporarily avoid disaster. However, you must remember, this sword is not personally controlled by me. Once the spirit sword is unsheathed, it will kill everyone within a 10-li radius, except for those inside the ancestral hall. Therefore, you must use it with extreme caution. This jade pendant contains a trace of my essence. Only by wearing this jade can the sword be drawn. Otherwise, a mere mortal is unable to unsheath this sword. From now on, this jade pendant shall be managed by successive Han family patriarchs." Han Tianxiao, seeing this, was greatly surprised and delighted, hastily replying, "Your grandnephew will bear it in mind, martial uncle ancestors' teachings." Hanli smiled faintly, but he did not hand over the precious sword and jade pendant to the other party. Instead, he warned again, "There's one more thing you must remember. Because this golden sword is sealed within a sheath formed by spiritual energy, it can only be used 3 times. Each time it is used, the spiritual sheath will weaken by a fraction. Once all 3 uses are expended, the sword sheath will dissipate into nothingness, and the spiritual sword will revert back into a spiritual insect and vanish. I believe that with 3 opportunities to save the Han family from great calamity, I, your ancestral uncle, can be considered to have done right by the Han family. After all, how can there be eternal prosperity in this world? However, to prevent future generations from exploiting it and using this sword to commit evil deeds, this trial gold sword, before it is unsheathed, cannot leave this ancestral hall. The moment it leaves this place, it will also turn into nothingness and cease to exist. Even so, using this sword wisely is enough to allow the Han family to enjoy glory for several hundred years. After that, for the Han family to return to an ordinary life might not necessarily be a bad thing." Only after saying these words did he hand over the 2 items. Han Tianxiao repeatedly expressed his gratitude and reverently accepted the sword. He carefully enshrined it on the central altar table, then returned to Hanli's side, standing respectfully, ready to listen to his next instructions. Hanli was very satisfied with this. After a moment of thought, he took out 2 small, pale yellow bottles and tossed one to each of them. As they looked on with a hint of bewilderment, Hanli said with a smile, "The items just now were for the 2 branches of the Han family. You 2 are, after all, my descendants. This time, having personally seen me, your ancestral uncle, can be considered a fated encounter. I should at least give you some benefits. The elixirs in these bottles have the miraculous effect of prolonging life and strengthening the body. Take them. They are enough to ensure both of you live past your 100th birthday." Han Tianxiao and the other person were overjoyed upon hearing this. They thanked him in unison. "Many thanks, 4th ancestral uncle." "Many thanks, ancestral Uncle Han." Hanli nodded, then suddenly asked with curiosity, "You actually recognize my appearance? It seems there are still portraits of me. If they are in this ancestral hall, bring them for me to see. I'm quite curious who painted them." Han Tianxiao immediately replied upon hearing this, "The portraits are in the attic." "Please wait a moment, ancestral uncle." He walked to a side of the attic and pressed a spot on the wall. With a clack sound, a section of the wall rotated inwards, revealing 5 or 6 tightly rolled scroll paintings hanging inside. Hanli took a few steps forward and stood before one of the paintings. It depicted a smiling youth of 17 or 18, his face still bearing a trace of childishness. It was precisely Hanli's appearance from his younger days. Han Tianxiao stood behind Hanli and softly explained, "This painting, it is said, was passed down to the Han family by the ancestor who established the family. As for who painted it, that is unknown." Hanli seemed not to hear. After his gaze flickered a few times, it landed instead on another painting. This one was a portrait of Han Fu, dressed in the attire of a wealthy landowner. His face was much older than when Han Li had secretly visited the village in the past, but his face was filled with joy. A look of melancholy flashed across Han Li's face. He then looked at the other paintings. All the paintings depicted white-haired, grizzled old men. Han Li took a great deal of effort to discern the former appearances of his two elder brothers among them. A myriad of emotions surged in his heart, and he stood there, lost in thought. Han Tianxiao and the other person were very perceptive and did not speak, refraining from disturbing Han Li. Han Li suddenly muttered a few words to himself, but his voice was too soft and somewhat indistinct, making it difficult to hear clearly. Just as Han Tianxiao and the other person were about to focus their attention to listen, a dazzling, piercing clear light erupted from all around Han Li. Startled, they instinctively closed their eyes. When they opened their eyes again, Han Li was already nowhere to be seen. However, Han Li's voice simultaneously echoed in their ears. Although I already possess some abilities of a land immortal, I also have some formidable enemies. The matter of our meeting today, absolutely do not speak of it to others. As long as no word leaks out and no outsiders see the trial gold sword, cultivators of the immortal cultivation world will not pay attention to you mere mortals. You can certainly rest easy without worries. As for me, I will focus on pursuing the great Tao of immortality from now on, and will not easily have any further involvement with the Han family. You all take care of yourselves. After saying this, his voice abruptly ceased. Han Tianxiao and the other person exchanged glances, then couldn't help but look at each other in bewilderment. Han Li had already flown out more than 10 li away. Although the current members of the Han family had some relation to him, the true loved ones in his heart were always just his parents, elder brothers, and younger sister. Although Han Tianxiao and the other person had always been extremely respectful towards him, he still couldn't feel overly close to them. After all, there was a barrier of so many generations, coupled with the changes in Qingyou Town and Woolly Gully, which made Han Li feel a sense of unfamiliarity, finding it difficult to truly integrate. However, after returning to his hometown, the last trace of lingering attachment in his heart finally faded. He believed that after the erosion of more years, this final connection would also become insignificant. The cultivators of the Jade Forest sect and Ghost Spirit sect were about to catch up to Han Li. Why did Han Li tie one of the female cultivators back to a sect? Upon discovering Han Yunji and the others tracking him, Han Li immediately flew towards them, intending to kill them to eliminate future troubles. Picking up from last time, after Han Li left his hometown, he deliberately took a detour to visit Homestead City. Only after entering the city did he realize that this city, too, had changed beyond recognition. Not only had Sun Ergu and the Siping gang long vanished like smoke, but even the five-color gate, which once dominated the entire Lanzhou region, no longer existed. It had been replaced by the newly risen Tianyi Association. He didn't know what became of Mo Yuzhu and her daughter Yingming in the end, and Han Li could only sigh before hastily departing. As for Sun Ergu, although the Sun family had pledged allegiance to him, Han Li had never truly demanded anything from them, instead granting Sun Ergu many benefits over time. Unable to inquire about the Sun family's whereabouts, he could only give up. With no further attachments in his heart, Han Li prepared to pass through Yuanwu Nation and return to Luoyun sect. However, just half a day after leaving Homestead City, he suddenly looked in a certain direction, realizing someone was tracking him. 200 li away, Han Yunji and the others also halted their escape flight. Among them, Han Yunji and the two women exchanged glances, their expressions turning grim. They had noticed that Han Li had suddenly stopped moving, remaining motionless, leading them to suspect that the cultivator they were trying to capture had discovered their traces. Their cultivation technique, personally passed down by their ancestor, only allowed them to sense Han Li's location unilaterally. As long as the opponent's magic power hadn't reached the late nascent soul stage, they shouldn't have been able to detect anything unusual. After all, they and their target were hundreds of li apart, and an ordinary nascent soul cultivator could at most sense movements within 100 li radius. Could it be that the person they were chasing was a late-stage old monster? Han Yunji suddenly noticed Han Li flying towards them, and his speed was astonishingly fast. If they were caught by this person, they would surely die. Their best course of action now was to flee to the Ghost Spirit Gate's branch altar in Lanzhou. Perhaps with the help of its formations, they could protect themselves, as the opponent might not dare to openly attack the Ghost Spirit Gate's branch altar, thus increasing their chances of survival. The situation was critical. The 6 of them immediately activated the Spirit Harmony Art, linking their magic power together. Their escape speed instantly increased by half, and they fled with all their might. Meanwhile, Han Li was already at the other end, flying at full speed with a grim expression. If he focused his spiritual sense with his great development art at the 4th layer, his spiritual sense could easily cover 100 li radius. Beyond 100 li, although he couldn't perceive every. In an instant, over a dozen black dots appeared ahead. They instantly flew towards the cultivators from the Ghost Spirit Gate. The 6 figures flashed into view, revealing themselves. The Ghost Spirit Gate cultivators, having already discovered them, scattered and adopted defensive stances. These newcomers were none other than Cultivator Sun and his companions, disciples of true monarch Suiyun. They immediately questioned Han Yunji and her group, asking if they had visited the Taiwei mountain range a few days prior. Han Yunji and her group had not visited the Taiwei mountain range. However, they had continuously used a cultivation art to remotely probe Linin's location, which revealed that the cultivator who had placed a restriction on Linin seemed to have stayed there for half a day. Thus, the woman surnamed Lu informed Cultivator Sun, 100 li behind us, there was indeed a cultivator who had lingered in the Taiwei mountains. It was also during that period. Senior Brother Sun, could it be you are searching for this individual? Senior brother, if you go and inquire, you will know the truth of this matter. As for this junior sister, I still have urgent matters to attend to and must hurry on my way. How about I explain it in detail to senior brother another day? Cultivator Sun had no intention of letting Han Yunji and her group depart. Since junior sister Lu only acknowledges the person behind you as having once lingered in the Taiwei mountains, why not accompany us to confront them? If that person truly turns out to be the murderer of my 6th junior brother, I, Sen, will certainly offer both of you a generous reward afterward. Confronting a nascent soul cultivator? That's simply courting death. The woman surnamed Lu, startled, revealed a troubled expression. All the cultivators present suddenly felt a powerful and icy divine sense descend brazenly from the heavens, instantly enveloping all of them. Although no one was visible, the chilling, bone-piercing ill intent was clearly perceptible to everyone. The still charming woman cried out in alarm and fury, "It's a nascent soul cultivator. The person you spoke of is actually a nascent soul old monster. Are you trying to trick us into our deaths?" Cultivator Sun said in a low, grave voice, "Enough nonsense. Split up and flee immediately. Each man for himself." Having spoken, he instantly transformed into a streak of sinister light and was the first to flee. Seeing this, the others also scattered in all directions, each fleeing for their lives. The woman surnamed Lu whispered in great annoyance, "These fellows are truly useless. Not only did they offer no help, but they also needlessly wasted our precious escape time." Han Yunji calmly stated, "No, the situation is much better now. With these people providing cover for us, our chances of escape have greatly increased. We must also resign ourselves to fate." Immediately after, he released a large, snow-white bird and fled with all his might. At this moment, Han Li was already within 100 li. Moments ago, a sweep of his divine sense had revealed yet another wave of demonic cultivators, causing him slight annoyance. When both groups unexpectedly scattered and fled, he couldn't help but frown, finding the situation slightly troublesome. He then activated his Wind Thunder Shuttle, instantly teleporting repeatedly. A moment later, he arrived at the spot where the cultivators had just split up. Activating his divine sense, he immediately located them. The furthest individual had already fled 40 to 50 li away, while the nearest had only just escaped beyond 10 li. Han Li let out a cold snort. He immediately locked onto the furthest core formation cultivator, then vanished in a flash of lightning. The target was a woman of about 30 years of age, possessing an early core formation cultivation. While her combat cultivation art was considerably inferior to other top-tier arts, her escape technique was an extremely rare beacon fire escape art. Furthermore, the wind attribute magical treasure she cultivated, the drifting ribbon, made her escape technique even more formidable. The woman suddenly heard a rumbling sound in her ears. Though not loud and seemingly originating from a great distance, it startled her. She couldn't help but glance back, but her gaze met only empty air. Yet, the low rumbling grew increasingly louder, as if, in that brief instant, it had already arrived nearby. The woman's face instantly turned pale, and in terror, she frantically scanned her surroundings. Suddenly recalling something, she hastily tore through the air at a speed 3 parts faster than before. However, that brief moment of delay was enough. The distant spot, utterly empty just moments ago, suddenly shimmered with a point of faint light, which then vanished once more. When the silver light reappeared, it had already closed to a mere 100 jong away. It was precisely Hanli who had caught up. Hanli watched the woman, enveloped in a red light, tearing through the air ahead of him, and felt a trace of surprise at her astonishing escape speed. He mused, "It seems the world is vast indeed. All manner of wondrous techniques and marvelous methods are truly countless. A mere core formation female cultivator actually possesses such a formidable escape art. Then, in this world, there might still be many secret arts and magical treasures faster than my wind thunder shuttle." Hanli felt a touch of emotion in his heart. He flapped his silver wings, transforming into a streak of light. With a single flash, he appeared directly in front of the woman. A single raised hand sent 5 streaks of azure swordlight instantly shooting forth from his fingertips. What would Hanli's reaction be when he finally saw Han Yunji? How would he deal with this old acquaintance who had been tracking him? Please give us a like and subscribe, fellow Taoists. Let's continue our chat in the next episode.